7 o'clock, and I'm going to call today's meeting to order. We have an agenda in front of us, and I'm wondering, does anybody have any additions to the agenda? Okay. I have two, pardon me. We need to move 12.1 out of notice of motion to 7.1, please. And then I also have to add a closed session, so that will be 13.1, and it will be intergovernmental relations. That's all I have. So just looking for a motion to accept the agenda as amended. Councillor Alderson, all in favor of that motion? That's carried. We'll move on to 3.1, and we're going to go to Australia. Welcome to our delegation. Welcome, Vaughn and Tony.
Hello. Good morning. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
All right. I guess I'll turn the floor over to you, Vaughn and Tony. We do have your presentation in front of us.
Thank you.
So,
I've got a slightly updated one. Can you see that?
yes, we can.
Okay.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Yes, good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Mayor Burke and Council, for the opportunity for us to brief you on our project, on the BLACKSTONE project, especially in regards to jobs and timing. Yes, I'm Tony Robertson, CEO and Managing Director. I have over 30 years of mining experience, particularly in coal, across the globe. I've developed projects on all continents except for Europe and Antarctica. This project's extremely exciting in terms of what benefit it can flow through to the community. Vaughan Wishart is our Executive Director.
Thanks, Tony. Hello, everyone. I hope you're well.
Hello, Vaughn. We look forward to the day that you can come back to visit us in Rocky Mountain House.
Yes, the last time I was there, it was snowing deep in winter.
We have our toque still, right on.
Our toques.
Got my toque. It's a very warm toque.
Yeah, I suppose you don't have a lot of use for it where you're at right now.
No, I'm just wearing this jumper for effect. It's actually, I think it's 19 degrees at the moment, but anyway, it feels like winter when you got a jumper on. Look, I'll run through the presentation. Feel free to interrupt if I go too quick or my accent gets too thick. So these are the highlights, and I'm assuming not everyone's seen our presentation, so I can go through some of the key points. It's a very significant world-class coal deposit right on your doorstep, where we've got 175 million tonne of JORC inferred. What does that mean? That means a lot. It's a lot of coal. It's a multi-generational project, which usually means between 20 to 50 years plus that size. And we've only looked at a third of the property at the moment. So we've got a target of around 580 million tonnes potentially in our exploration. So it's a huge deposit. The key is that it's high quality steel making coal, not thermal coal. And there's a huge demand for steel making coal, especially over the next 12 years. What excited me is that the infrastructure is already there. Normally with these projects, they look great on paper, but then you've got to build roads, rail, power, water, gas, etc. We've got all that close to the project, so it makes it easier to get to production by 2022. Our team, myself, Vaughan, we've done this before all around the globe. So we've seen the benefits that derive, and we take on the responsibility personally in terms of developing the asset as quick as possible so that the community benefits. And the long-term market conditions. So by 2032, the forecast demand in steelmaking coal is equivalent of the size of the Bowen Basin now. Additional demand. So it's taken 50 years to develop the Bowen Basin to where it currently is as the largest exporter of metallurgical coal in the world. It's about
And that's
150 in Queensland.
for those that don't know, the Bowen Basin is the large coal fields in Queensland.
Sorry, can you say the name of that again?
It's here, Bowen Basin. When everyone's talking about a benchmark of metallurgical coal in the world, the Bowen Basin is the key, and it's the benchmark for all global.
And it contains about 50 operating coal mines.
Correct. So just in summary, we're a shovel-ready project. All our site works are currently stopped until we can raise an additional $5 million US. But that'll create, as soon as we get those funds, that'll create 35 full-time equivalent direct jobs immediately. And by immediately, I mean within 2 months. And that'll keep our project on track to commence mining in 2022, which is our aim. In our first year of operation, there'll be around 300 direct jobs created. That's in 2022, increasing to between 600 and 1,000 direct jobs by 2027. So within 5 years of us starting, we expect to be of that sort of magnitude with direct employment. And I've got, it's a mine life of greater than 20 years, but similar projects overseas have been operating for longer than 40, 50 years. And I can see this being very similar. So our impact at the moment with COVID virus, as everyone's been locked down, the issue with us has been particularly with travel. So our Asian investors like to kick the tires, meet us, have dinner before they hand over their cash. So we've been restricted in terms of raising capital at the moment, but that's okay. So in terms of where we are with the project, we've raised 3.3 million Australian dollars from basically mum and dad investors. It's Vaughan and mine, friends, family, work colleagues, and people that we know in the industry. So we've managed to secure that money. The majority of those funds have already been spent in Alberta, both in the ground at the actual site and in environmental monitoring, as well as a lot of consultants, lawyers, etc. in Alberta. And we've even spent some money over the border in BC, unfortunately, with bean counters and auditors. But most of that money has gone back into the ground. We have our mine permits, in terms of our exploration and access and seismic and drilling permits. We have all those permits approved. There's a picture on the screen at the moment. This is the Ram River gas plant. It's rail spur. Our site is just to the left, about 8 kilometres to the left of this rail spur.
You're on the left.
A draft. My left. to the right of the rail spur. We have a draft MOU agreed with Tidewater, who own the Ram River gas plant. They're very keen to share infrastructure with us, which is great. We've also lodged our interest with the coal ports, particularly West Shore and Ridley terminals. There's actually I'll come back to this, but there's a slide. Oh. So we can either go north to the Ridley terminal or south to the West Shore. We've spoken to Canadian National, Canadian Pacific with the rail access, and we've expressed our interest to those terminals, and they're very supportive at this stage. On site, we've constructed all our key access tracks ready for our drill rigs to come in. We've completed 25% of our environmental monitoring field work, and we have all our documentation ready, including a prospectus for us to list on the ASX as a public company, which will raise the additional funds to get the project up and running. We had expected that we'd be listed now, but with COVID virus affecting the world markets, it's likely to be first half of next year before we can list. We've also met. We've had a number of meetings now with Minister Jason Nixon and Tanya Furr in Edmonton. The last face-to-face meeting was in February, where we had a formal update. And as early as yesterday, we had a teleconference with Minister Nixon and his team going over some of the issues and how we can advance the project sooner. I have to say they've been extremely supportive of the project and of us personally, and they've always given us the time to see us, which has been good because we can have that face-to-face and personally discuss the issues firsthand. And a positive step that we've had in the last 3 weeks was the repeal of the 1976 coal mining policy. That's reduced the risk for explorers like Valerie trying to develop tenements. The market saw it as a very positive step. One of the companies that are looking to develop a mine south of our deposit called Atrum, they're trying to develop the South Eland project. They're currently listed on the ASX, and their share price jumped 25% the day after the announcement of that repeal on the 15th of May. So very positive step for our project, and I think very positive step for Clearwater County and Alberta in general. We'll see some more positivity in terms of permitting. So what we're to try to get the project up and running as soon as possible, apart from having the infrastructure already there and capacity at the ports, which is extremely positive, we've also, our production's under the threshold of the federal process. So we still have to meet the stringent conditions of the Alberta provincial permitting process through the Alberta Energy Regulator. And we've had early engagement with them to date, so that's helped our process as well. But it means we don't have to involve the federal as another layer of approval, and that's been bogging down a lot of the, or delaying a lot of the permitting for projects, particularly in Canada at the moment. So with us going under that federal permitting and only in the Alberta provincial approval, it means that we've got a better chance of getting the mine up and running before 2023, which is what we're trying to do. This map just shows in terms of Australia, that's the southernmost coal port in Australia is Newcastle, and it's fairly comparable to Canada in terms of similar shipping time to Tokyo and slightly longer to Shanghai, which I was surprised by. I thought Australia would be further away, but very comparable to the existing market in Australia. The main, this accounts for, I think, 60% in total, 65% of the global seaborne coal trade. That's just a photo looking east to west on site across one of the seismic lines that's already in place. This is our lease area. We've also added another lease down in the southwest corner. The gold that you can see is the potential underground mining operations. The shaded area here is the high wall, and I'll explain that a bit in detail. And the pink area is the open cut areas. So we've only explored a third of the possible lease. It's expected that there's coal right through this area, but we need to do more exploration of that. But our focus in stage one is this area down here in this bottom corner. So in relation to Rocky Mountain House, I think you're up here, somewhere up here north. What's that, north?
Yeah, Highway 70, Highway 752 is that one through there, yeah.
Yeah, through there. And Ram River is around here somewhere.
Yeah, just east a little bit.
I'll just, the reason we've got this pink area, and this is another reason why we can get quick to get the mine operational. Just switch to a photo. This is all coal outcropping, which means it's coal that the seam is actually on the surface. So it's easy to dig down to. There's coal seam. So this is on site. This is actually all coal. You can see where my cursor is, where it's just outcropped. So the likely seam goes down and then under the road, etc. This is looking at that same seam and us kicking it with our shoes. So it's right there on the surface.
And so it starts, the seams start there at the surface and continue all the way down to a depth of 500 and 600 meters, and then they come up on the western side of the property again to near the surface.
Up here, yeah, yep. So it's sort of like a bowl, wishing bowl, if you like, through there.
Yeah, so sometimes we get asked, how deep is the coal? Well, it's not just one answer. It's not just 300 meters deep. It ranges from 0 down to 600 and then back up to 0 again.
The advantage for our project is there's little disturbance to the surface. Because that coal's quite shallow here, we can operate at a very shallow depth to remove that coal. And then the rest of this coal deposit is all underground. So there's no surface footprint. And I personally worked literally at the coal face in underground coal mines for 15 years. And I've mined under very sensitive environments such as dairy farms. In the Hunter Valley, it's one of the best red wine growing districts in the world, particularly their Shiraz and Merlots. We've mined underneath that with little disturbance, including mining under rivers, etc. In England, actually, when I was working in one of the mines in Queensland, there was a lot of English expats working in the coal mine. Some of them had worked where they were mining underneath the North Sea. So that sort of gives you a bit of an idea of it's not like you do your underground mining and then all of a sudden holes appear. We're extracting around 1.5 to 2 meters, and then it subsides slightly. You don't see a massive change on the surface. So I think that's a particular advantage when we look at, so I'll show you a photo looking from south to north of the property. One here. That one. So that's looking from south to north through here, so through this valley. So you won't see any significant disturbance at all apart from where we've got coal outcropping in those areas, and then that gets rehabilitated afterwards.
Tony, just a time check. We've got about 10 minutes left.
Oops.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Infrastructure. This is showing that same site plan we'll have a processing plant with a haul road to the existing rail spur here in the Ram River gas. I'll keep that timeline up. So what does that mean in terms of jobs? The long-term analysis shows that 600 to 1,000 direct full-time jobs by stage 3, which is 5 years from first coal. Now, when we actually start to do the construction, there'll be around 400 jobs and about 300 jobs in our first year of operation. Now, they're direct jobs. And just showing you this slide, the Queensland government has done an analysis of the Bowen Basin and their coal industry. And their estimate is that for every one direct job, so 35,000 jobs currently in coal mining just in the province of Queensland, there's an additional 226 indirect jobs. Now, where that comes about is all the support services. It's very labour intensive, coal mining, but it's not as you think. It's not just hydraulic servicemen and overhaul equipment. It's also in all the accommodation. And we've seen that with places like Mackay. Mackay was a very sleepy town, 80,000 people, still 80,000 people, but it contributes $15.4 billion to the Australian economy now, which is about 7.1% of the gross state product. So, yeah, and that's just been in the last really 20 years that that's happened because of the coal industry. The other thing, why is there such a demand coming up for coal? Well, even things such as wind farms. My previous job, I was project director of the largest wind farm in the Southern Hemisphere, 149 wind turbines. Every wind turbine takes around 200 tonne of metallurgical coal, and that's a conservative estimate. So when you look at the renewable industry at the moment, it's spurring a huge demand in steel.
And therefore steel making coal.
And therefore steel making coal. So that's our biggest thing at the moment with our investors is convincing them that we can get the permit done in time. But Alberta Energy Regulator and Minister Nixon has assured us that we can get it in our timing, which is the 15 months for our review to get first coal in mid 2022. That's if we can get the funds in the next 2 months and continue work and progress. We're optimistic that we can get those funds. It's just the timing at the moment with the effect on COVID-19. So that was the main points that I wanted to cover. Vaughan, was there any other highlights you wanted to discuss before we open for questions?
No, thanks, Tony. That's a good overview of the project and the potential of the business. So we're happy to take questions from the group.
Okay. Thank you for that presentation. I have a question. Would you anticipate opening an office in Rocky Mountain House?
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
And
what
stage of the project would that be? Would that be before exploration or?
It's during exploration. So in this next phase, I'd like to have a facility in Rocky Mountain House to store all our core samples, as well as have a full-time display and presentation for the local community to see what the project's about and what we're planning. Also, it allows us to, any companies or people that are interested can register. What I've, in terms of a key success factor for regions, is being able to advance notice and early engagement with the community. If we wait until we want to put out a tender for, I don't know, cleaning of offices or haulage, say haulage, coal haulage. If we put that out and we give everyone a month's notice, it's not enough time usually for local communities. But if businesses know that that's coming up in the next 12 months, 2 years, it makes a big difference to the ability to local communities to get ready for those contracts, to be prepared for it, the investment needed, as well as have the early discussions with ourselves. So yes, it's our intent to have an office as soon as possible.
Awesome, that's great, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Councillor Auld?
How close physically, I couldn't tell from the maps, how close physically would the mine be to the Blackstone River?
Sorry, how close?
To the Blackstone River.
Can you hear?
To the Blackstone River, it's about 5 kilometres and about 8 kilometres to the Clearwater River.
We've got the Tay, I think it's the Tay River comes through here.
The reason my question is, down in southern Alberta right now, they're having a significant impact from the coal mine in southern Alberta with the dusting. And it's impacted the local fishery department down there. I'm just curious if there's any cause for concern there.
No, there's been a lot of water monitoring on site, even back as early as 2012. Even though there's been a lot of work previously done, we're redoing all that work to make sure that we have our baselines of what the water quality is like before we even go in there and do any disturbance. We're fortunate that our exploration so far is showing no or very little selenium, which is a problem with the mines down south as well.
Thank you.
Another significant difference is the those mines further down. That's in the Tech Valley, yeah. And my understanding is they're quite large open cut mines, whereas ours, we plan to have a small first stage open cut and then transition into an underground.
Yes, whereas theirs is all open cut, and that's what I mean. Minimal disturbance to the site.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Can you give an example, sorry if I missed this, but of another site similar to the one you're proposing? Like, are there pictures of it, of another site that we could look at?
I've got, I worked at a place called Capricorn Coal, which is very similar land area and similar quality coal and similar in all ways actually, because there's one open cut and there was 2 undergrounds. Now there's 2 have closed and there's another 2 in its place. That's been operating for 40 years, yeah, early 1980 that started. And that's a very similar operation with, there's Gordonstone Creek and Bundora Dam is nearby, and the creek runs through the property. So I could find some photos of that. What I'd like to propose too, I don't know if it's within your ability, but I'd like to take a delegation of representatives from Clearwater County and Alberta Province, if able to come over to Queensland and see firsthand the development of those towns near those mines and see the scale of the operations, particularly Emerald, which was very similar to Rocky Mountain House. It was more an agricultural centre. When I started work in 1987, they were trying to sell houses for $25,000. Within 15 years, with the mining industry opening up, those same houses were selling for nearly $1 million. Now that was during the mining boom, but that was sort of the scale of development that happened in that area. I can see, I think I've got some old photos I can show of the sites and the similar sort of development, but it's more, they've got larger scale open cut with the underground. So ours will be far less disturbance on the surface.
And
But
so,
yes, we'll dig out some photos of a small open cut mine and send them through, and also
Yeah.
some photographs of a longwall machine. So longwall is a particular method of underground mining used throughout the world.
sure, that would be great. I think education is key. People need to understand that this is a different, it's the coking coal and not heating coal, and there is a huge difference. So I think education is a big component here.
The difference it means to the region and the town is that thermal coal, apart from being, you know, environmentally on the nose at the moment, thermal coal traditionally is a lot lower price and more susceptible to price drops. Coking coal is a premium demand, which means we've got some buffer. If the price comes down, we've got quite a buffer before we have to stop operation. It's highly unlikely that you would. Whereas thermal coal is susceptible to that price. So having high quality coking coal means continuity of operations and money through the town, even in the when the industry is in the doldrums.
Okay. Good. Thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions? Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for the presentation. We really look forward to having you back to Alberta and meeting you in person again. And make sure you bring your toque.
Yeah, I've got it. Got it on. There you go. I wore it to an Oilers game in Edmonton and I got a lot of comments from people. So there you go, supporting the town already.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No
Thank you.
worries.
Thank you, councillors.
Have a great night.
Thanks. Bye-bye. All right. So thank you. Now we'll move on to 3.2, our delegation. Thanks for your patience when we had that first one. Sergeant Dinsdale, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
Tyler.
Sorry.
Tyler.
Tyler. Okay, good. Thank you. Welcome.
Mayor, I'm just going to get the camera on them and move the microphone around.
All right. Well, welcome to council, and thanks for coming. And I know you had an impaired driving presentation. You don't need to go through every slide of that, but if you want to look at it and kind of, you know, go through the highlights of that, that would be great. Okay.
I'll bring it up on the screen. Just one.
Okay. So I'll turn it over to you then.
Just a brief history for me. My name is Tyler. I've been in Rocky Mountain House for just over a year now. I promoted here. Prepared by drug and driving vehicle. And I've also been a breath technician to operate breath testing instruments for about 10 or 11 years now. So a bit of experience with the impaired driving world.
I think with the drug impaired, you know, with the legalization of cannabis, that's of interest. And, you know, how do you test and how do you know the signs?
All right, the screen is up. If you'd like, just let me know when to scroll up.
Okay, so this presentation kind of focuses on the drug impaired driving portion of our detection. It does kind of marry up with the alcohol as well. We're all, in both situations, we're looking for the signs and symptoms of somebody that's either impaired by alcohol or a whole bunch of different types of drugs. So roadside screening device, I guess you probably move on to the next one. So we have approved screening devices for alcohol, and with the new laws that came in recently, we have mandatory alcohol screening. So now any driver in a vehicle that we stop, they have to provide a breath sample upon demand. So typically, what we're looking for now is every time we do a traffic stop, the first thing we're going to do is that mandatory alcohol screening. Everybody's required to do that, and if they refuse to do that, then they're liable to be arrested and charged for refusing that demand. Which does make our job a lot easier when it comes to detecting impaired drivers, especially if you get somebody that's an alcoholic or they can handle their liquor very well. They can be at a very high level, but not show any symptoms at all. So this is where this mandatory alcohol screening can screen those people out. Legal limit being 80, I've seen people that have blown 230 and show zero symptoms at all. So.
Really?
So that mandatory alcohol screening is really great for picking those people up. We don't have a mandatory screening for the drug impairment side yet. It's just the legislation hasn't caught up with it. It's a fairly new thing. We do have what's called standardized field sobriety testing, which I'm also trained in, and that would be a 3-test thing that we do roadside to determine whether or not somebody is impaired by drug. So there's a horizontal gaze and nystagmus test, a walk and turn test, and then there's a balance test. And based on the totality of what we see from those 3 tests, we could arrest somebody for being impaired by a drug. So for our purposes, what is a drug? It's any substance when taken into the body that impairs your ability to drive. So it could be prescribed medication, it could be illicit drugs, alcohol, combination of everything together. A lot of people don't realize that they get some sort of narcotic painkiller for their back pain from a car accident, and they take 1 or 2 too many of those, and all of a sudden we're looking at a pretty serious situation.
So is that a blood test then? Is that how you determine?
That is in the criminal code now to do blood testing. We don't do it yet. So the drug recognition expert is the person that does the DRE evaluation. And that's a 12-step process that we do after we determine that they're impaired at our office. It takes about an hour and a half to run through the whole process. It includes everything from their blood pressure, body temperature, muscle rigidity or flaccidity. It's quite the process. It's very interesting, actually. So once we go through that entire evaluation, we determine that that person, in our opinion, is in fact impaired by a drug. We demand a urine sample, and that urine sample is sent off to our lab. And based on the current way things are running, it's about 5 months until we get the results back on that.
5 months?
Yeah. Our labs are very backlogged. So when we do that evaluation, we have to determine what drug category we believe that person is under the influence of. There's 7 in total. And we have to write a report, decide which category we think that it is, and then match it up with the urine sample. So once we get those results back from the lab, if it matches what we called from the evaluation, we would then lay a criminal charge for the impaired driving. Alcohol, we can charge immediately because we can do breath samples at our office, but when it comes to the drug impaired portion, it takes roughly 5 to 6 months to determine whether or not we can actually charge on that.
So how, with industry around here, if they test somebody for drug impairment, does it take that long for industry to get the results, or they must get theirs?
No, they would use private labs, so they can essentially have it tested right away.
Okay.
So in order for us to demand that the standardized field sobriety test be done, we have to have a reasonable belief that there's drugs in the body of the person that is operating the motor vehicle. So a drug in any amount, there's a fairly low threshold for us to read that demand to make them do those tests. Something along the lines of I smoked marijuana 6 hours ago, smell in the vehicle, drug paraphernalia in the vehicle, smell of burnt, or even seeing a drug in the vehicle, which is quite common. What is sober?
Sorry.
I'm just curious about, based on the picture, is like one of the, is that a hand sticking off on an arm or something? Like, what is that?
Yeah, so that'd be goosebumps or piloerection. So
Okay.
there are certain drugs that will cause your skin to do that, like LSD is one of them. So yeah, that's a very distinct sign that if it's warm and somebody has that piloerection and the goosebumps and the hair sticking out, that's a very good indicator that. And those pictures that you see there with the constricted pupils and the dilated pupils, it's, you would think that that's exaggerated, but it's not. If somebody was on a stimulant such as methamphetamine, their eyes would blow out to pupils that are that large. Different things that we also look for, the bottom left picture there, meth teeth. It's also, we call it bruxism. So that stimulant causes people to grind their teeth quite a bit, and you end up with teeth like that. In really hard users, you can see that their teeth will be very flat, but they'll grind them pretty much half gone. It's very distinct flat, but half of their teeth will be ground away. So for the criminal code, as far as determining whether, or arresting somebody for an impaired charge, whether it be drugs or alcohol, we have to suspect that the operator has a drug in their body while operating conveyance or vehicle. And same thing with alcohol in order to arrest. So if we do the math and they blow over the legal limit on that roadside screening device, then at that point we determine they have alcohol in their body and we can arrest them at that point. If we have suspicion of the drug in the body, we read that SFST demand or the standardized field sobriety test demand, and we have 30 minutes to get that test completed. So not all members are trained in that. We're working on trying to get everybody trained, but we haven't got that far yet. Typically, every watch or every detachment will have several of them, so if we can get somebody there within that 30 minutes to do that test, we're good to go. So with the roadside screening device command or the standardized field sobriety testing command, there's no right to counsel for that. So we have a lot of times we'll have people that say, you know, we want to talk to a lawyer before we provide these tests. Well, at that point, they haven't been arrested for anything, but they are required by law to comply with those tests. And if they don't, they can face arrest and criminal charge for that. So the standardized field sobriety test, it's objective. It's to determine whether or not somebody is sober or whether they're under the influence of drugs. If we do that test and we don't detect any impairment, then the driver will be released right there. Same with the mandatory alcohol screening. If they blow under the legal limit, that's it, they're done, they get to go. If they fail that SFST or the roadside screening device for alcohol, then they would be arrested at that point, brought back for attachment for further testing. Just go up a little bit there.
Sorry. Am I going the right way?
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Thanks.
So if we've developed the grounds to arrest somebody for impaired by drug, they would come back to our office and have a drug recognition expert complete the 12-step exam on that. That 12-step exam is an international standardized process, so it's exactly the same throughout North America, so that we can say it's done this way, it's only done this way, so it stands scrutiny from the courts. It's always done the same way. It's North America. So what the DRE determines, we determine if the person that we're testing is actually impaired. Like I explained before, what drug category, or sometimes we determine that their impairment is caused by a medical issue. In that case, we would finish our evaluation. They'd either be taken to the hospital, but there'd be no charges if it was in fact a medical case, and that does happen once in a while. So if you get somebody that has diabetes and they're having some sort of issue with that, it can present symptoms very similar to being impaired. And if you get an acetone, stale odor on the breath, it does smell a lot like alcohol. So sometimes members will think that they're actually impaired, and we'll get them back and determine that it's actually a medical issue and this person needs to be in the hospital. So the test is very good for that. So there's the 7 categories of drug impairment. We determined through our evaluation which category we believe they fall into, and like I said before, we matched that up with our urine sample results. Some scary impaired driving stats. Weekend nights, as many as 10% of drivers on the road may be impaired. I think personally that's low. I would say that it's probably higher than that. The average alcohol impaired driver will drive 80 times per year. And from the statistics that we've gathered, drug impaired drivers are at pretty much the same rate as an alcohol impaired driver. So 80 times per year, I think that's probably on the lower end too. I think the rest of it doesn't really apply. It's more geared to the training for the program. So that one slide just to be put down. So when we send our urine sample off to the lab, this is the report that we would get. And then basically, and I've seen people that I've done DRE exams on that would have a cocktail of that many different types of drugs in their urine at the same time, which can be very scary that these people are actually out about driving around in a car. What a lot of people will do is they'll take a stimulant like meth and try to balance it off with like a narcotic just to level themselves out, but it just doubles the impairment. It can be quite scary. I think the rest is more so geared towards training police. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, I had Councilor Alderson and Councilor Alt.
I was just curious, I mean, if that's on the low end and somebody's driving 80 plus times a year, an individual, well, I guess what would be the stat or percentage, I don't know if you know this at all, of the number of individuals in 100 that would do that, because that makes me nervous.
Yeah,
That's a lot of.
I couldn't tell you that statistic. I'm not sure.
Did I hear you right? Every traffic stop that you do, it's mandatory that you go do a breathalyzer test on the stop?
It's not mandatory for us to do it. That's our practice. But it is mandatory for every driver to provide that stuff. Okay, when we stop them at a traffic stop.
Councilor Phillips?
So for the alcohol, you have to, the test low and
Right.
find out the alcohol. Is there anything coming for drugs that you?
There is, I believe it's called the Dragger 3000. It's a tongue test, so you scrape the individual's tongue with that, and then it goes into an instrument that's about yay big. But they're very expensive. The RCMP, as far as I know, hasn't started using them at all yet. There's some issues as to how you would transport those around in a vehicle and whether or not they can withstand the cold. So right now we're sticking to just the standardized field sobriety testing roadside with members that are trained to do that.
A couple of years ago, 2 years ago now, we did trial across the country some saliva, some basic saliva testing, but I don't think it had the consistency that would be required by law to be used as a regular practice for us. Unfortunately, hopefully the science is coming along. We're kind of playing catch up with the legalization. And not to, just something to add to Tyler's presentation, that talks about a lot of specialized training and equipment that's used for the detection of impaired driving. Of course, that doesn't negate the old-fashioned swerving all over the road, odor of alcohol, the classic symptoms of alcohol impaired driving. We still arrest and go straight to reprimand. We don't have to go through all these steps if there's other obvious signs that give us that reasonable grounds for further investigation of insurance.
You said you were the only officer at this attachment that's trained?
No, there's 3 of us in Rocky, which is actually quite high.
That's gonna make you a busy man.
Yeah, because when I worked at Cochrane, I was the only one for the entire Calgary urban area, so that was quite busy there. So it was nice to come to Rocky Mountain House and have 2 more that could take on some of the workloads. So it was fantastic.
Yeah, we are quite spoiled in some regards because the DRE training, because it's North American and nationalized, did you have to go to the States?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the training is provided at the center members of Florida.
I went to Fresno, yeah.
You went to Fresno, okay, so that's where the training gets, so it becomes a costly training expenditure. So,
I'm just curious, and I hate to ask what I'm going to, is that coincidental that there's 3 in this area, or is that because it's required in this area?
It's coincidental. Yeah.
Councillor Lorraine, did I see your hand?
Yeah, I was just sort of, again, a curiosity. So we do have industry that have urine tests and then you get their samples back so quickly. Why are we, is it consistency of result that the police or RCMP don't use similar testing? Like 5 months seems crazy.
it's lab certification, so we're bound to use Health Canada labs. And that's the labs, those labs hold the certification that's accepted, the standards accepted by the courts. So the private labs, any chemist can open up a private lab and start conducting tests, but they haven't gone through steps required to meet the standard that the courts demand for analysis.
I pretty much have a private lab, I've got 3 teenagers. I have that long.
Any other questions? No? Well, thank you very much for the presentation. It was really interesting. I mean, we'll have you guys back again with some more stats, crime stats, and
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Ready,
Yeah.
for pleasure.
And we had another conversation though, virtual town hall.
Yes, I kind of tacked that on at the end. Actually, the COVID pandemic has affected everything. And the RCMP's ability to maintain community engagement has become extremely limited. We can't hold large gatherings and be able to interact with the community at large anymore like we used to. So I was looking for some assistance from the town, hopefully in conjunction with the CPOs, in arranging a virtual town hall so that we could perhaps, I don't know if the ability exists, but take people's calls, or we could have it set up so that there's questions submitted ahead of time that we can go on and address and answer and kind of get some dialogue going with the community. Community engagement's a priority for all of the RCMP in Alberta, so we can keep that going. There's been suggestions about tagging on to the community Facebook page, perhaps having a little. I'm a what do you call it? I don't know much about technology. Anyway, I'm not too savvy when it comes to that, but really, I just wanted to ask, the town if they would be interested in working with us to try and develop something to begin re-engaging the community in that manner and getting some communication going. So, if that would be a possibility to explore, I'd really appreciate it, because we just don't have the technology available to us locally to do it ourselves.
So would you maybe consider if we opened up our town portal and had questions through that way, and then maybe have an answer virtually?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, like we would certainly want that. If people are asking us questions, if we can do it in real time, or even if it's submitted ahead of time. And, you know, sometimes the live real-time questioning can get a little awkward, depending upon who's calling. So sometimes being able to screen what's coming in a little bit, not that I don't want to deal with everyone's concerns, but some people get a little silly when they have the ability to kind of be anonymous and call in, so.
Section, ask your local or CMP.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Answer over Zoom and have the questions.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, rather than the way we did our task force meeting, instead of doing it that way. And then perhaps we could even have a dedicated telephone line as well, so that we could take phone calls.
Yeah, any assistance would be greatly appreciated.
Councilor Phillips?
I think any way we can promote this, this type of information, get out to the public and make the public more aware of just how much of a problem it really is. The public will help us in assisting get this done. This problem taken care of.
Wonderful.
So can we, I guess, look into possibilities or?
Yeah, Your Worship, our communication corner gave me the nod already, so
Okay.
good to go, so it's like council resolutions that instructing.
Okay, that sounds great. Councilor Phillips? We'll do that farther down, if you don't, is under delegation business, that'd be great, thanks. Okay, that's awesome, thanks very much for coming in, I appreciate it, we all appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Yes. Any way you can turn this here down, it is freezing back here.
I know. I don't care, but I'm
Feel like I'm in a cooler. I just wanted to do an audio check. Yeah. 7:57, we'll take a 5-minute break. So we can do some jumping jobs. Thanks, see ya.
Bye.
She's very receptive. And so.
Hello.
So just for a moment. All right. I'm getting my steps in tonight. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. So we're not quite ready for you yet. I just wanted to
No.
do a quick audio check while we're on a momentary break.
Sounds good.
So I'm just going to keep you muted. I'll leave your video on, but I'll keep you muted until Jeff and Dean join us up front and the mayor calls on you for the agenda.
Okay, and you can hear me okay?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
great, thanks.
Hi, Lisa.
Right, we are unmuted and we are still live, so I.
Okay, we're going to move on to number 4. I'll call the meeting back to order. It is 8:03. And we'll move on to 4.1 to adopt the regular council meeting minutes of June 2nd, 2020. Please have a chance to read those. Any questions? Councilor Phillips? Okay, thank you. All in favor of that motion? That's carried, thank you. 4.2 is to adopt the special council meeting minutes from June 2nd, 2020. Councilor Alderson?
I'll make a motion to adopt those special council meetings.
Okay, all in favor of that motion? And that's carried, thank you. And now we'll move on to number 5.1, delegation, Balleroy Resources. I guess just looking for a motion to accept that as information. Councilor Alt? All in favor of that motion? That's carried, thanks. And 5.2, delegation from the RCMP, looking for a motion.
Yep, I'll make a motion to direct him to look at ways to further the message of the fair
To
There's not a virtual town hall.
just a virtual town hall, to help with the virtual town hall.
A system in the public engagement.
Does that work to assist the RCMP with the public engagement? Okay. Renee, did you get that? Yeah, okay. Everybody clear on that motion then? All in favor of that motion? That's carried, thanks. Now we'll move on to number 6 and 6.1, the marketing options. And we have a guest, Lisa Lima.
Yep, hello, everyone.
Welcome. So I guess I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Hartling, I guess.
Yes, please. Just for a moment, just to introduce Lisa.
Okay.
Last month we were tasked, Mayor Burke, Council, last month we were tasked to investigate the statistics and various TV and social media ad options and provide a report back to Council. It was more of a challenge than we had anticipated to get stats. So with reaching out to Travel Alberta, who I sit around this table with through our Central Alberta Tourism Alliance group, with this Lisa Lama, and she has a really interesting scenario with looking at various ways of marketing. And so I want to introduce Lisa Lama to you. Lisa has 25 years of marketing experience, including product, retail, attractions, tourism marketing, and in her role as experienced development manager at Travel Alberta, she coaches industry stakeholders in marketing, partnership development, and building new experiences. Lisa, the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks very much, Jeff. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for allowing me to speak and inviting me to speak with all of you tonight. Now, Jeff, before we begin, I just wanted to check, were you going to be showing the Worth the Wait video? Was that part of it?
Yes, let's cue that from the side.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to kick that off. So if you'd like, I can talk a bit about it before you show the video. So the Worth the Wait campaign is coming out of course, with COVID, and Travel Alberta has an Alberta rebound, I should say, strategy. We've been in the respond mode at the very beginning, and this was when we talked about people staying home. And so now we've moved on to the next phase, being our restart phase. And of course, with COVID, everybody's at a different scenario, different level, different, I mean, some of the communities are welcoming and waiting for people to come back. Others maybe not ready yet. And that's the same with a lot of the businesses. Some of the businesses are still closed. Some of them never closed. And some of the tourism businesses are in that kind of that restart mode. So the Worth the Wait campaign just launched within the last, I'd say, week or so. And it's really about inspiring travelers and helping people think about traveling. It can be used in many different ways and platforms. So maybe before I talk anymore, Jeff, if you want to show the video just to give you a sense of what we're looking at, then I can talk a bit about it further. Great, thanks, Jeff. So as you can see, it's really about Alberta wide. And as we're looking at the restart, people are looking at, first of all, they're looking at hyper local. So that's inspiring, of course, your local audience, the local people within, Clearwater County, within Rocky Mountain House. And then we'll move out later into more people traveling within the province, because the way we see it this summer is probably going to be a lot of local travelers. You may look into that regional, but right now it's that people will be traveling more within their own province. And so what we've done this time, and we've never done this before, but we're really engaging with this Worth the Wait campaign. We also provided a toolkit that has gone out to industry partners so that actual tourism businesses as well as communities can actually align with this messaging and can utilize it to their own benefit. So they can add in their own photos. We have a lot of photos ourselves that they can utilize. And then when you see how it's positioned, you can do it like for Rocky Mountain House, it might be worth the hike, it might be worth the trek, worth the story, worth the climb, and then you can adapt it. So this is something that could be, Jeff and I have talked about it, and it might be part of your own messaging in the future. So how we are using it right now as Travel Alberta is, and you may have seen it already on TV. So we have done some TV ads and some social media, quite a bit of social media. And Travel Alberta generally doesn't use too much in the way of TV. We did it for our stay at home campaign, and now with the Worth the Wait. And the reason that we're utilizing TV right now within the province is that we want to get this message to a widespread, basically everyone in Alberta. And that's when TV can be beneficial, when we're just trying to do that widespread across the whole province to everyone. So whether it been, as I said, the stay at home, now we're looking at Worth the Wait, and then it'll move on from there. So as Jeff mentioned, when you start to look at your marketing tactics for Rocky Mountain House, one of the big things that we talk about is having a plan, and planning out your marketing is the most beneficial thing that you can really, really do. And to start with that, it's all about knowing who your target audience is. Who is it that's coming to Rocky Mountain House and in the Clearwater County area? Because it's a specific traveler, and the more you can learn about that traveler, the better it is. It's easier for you, because then you can really zone in on your marketing and really target that person that's the best person that would come to the area, spend their money, spend more time, bring their family, and so forth. We have some tools that help with that, with determining that target audience. And I've actually worked with Rocky Mountain House in the past with what we called Explore Quotient. This was developed through Destination Canada, which is the Canada tourism body that promotes Canada as a whole. And then through Travel Alberta, we've actually even redefined and zoned into what we call the ultimate traveler. And it's really there to, again, help communities, help businesses, to help identify who that best customer is. And we have a ton of information that'll help with that. So, and then you want to align those marketing tactics with who that best customer is. So if I go back to TV, the challenge sometimes with TV is because it can be too widespread. So your message is basically going to everyone versus that zoning into that key marketing, that key person that's really going to come again, spend the money in Rocky Mountain House. The other thing right now is that, of course, TV can be costly. You need to produce ads. But once you have those ads, you don't necessarily have that flexibility to switch them out. And what we know with COVID is there's a ton of uncertainty. So we're in these uncertain times where sometimes we need to we're going in one direction and then maybe we got to switch to another direction. So I would encourage maybe to look at some social media as part of whatever the marketing campaign, whatever tactics you do. It's helpful as, again, back to that audience, you can really target who that audience is and where they are within the social media channels. It's also, again, that easy flexibility to switch it out. So if you're targeting with some ads through social media and maybe you're measuring them and they're not doing what you want them to do, then you can easily switch them out very cost effectively to push out some other messages. And then easy measurement. That's a huge part of it, is how do you measure your marketing? And that's always been a tough one for anyone, as you know, to ensure that how do we know that that marketing we've done is really hitting the mark and making the cash register, ring for our partners within the community, within the county. So the measurements within social media are a little more easier to identify. So we also have some other resources that I just wanted to quickly share with you. One of them is called ATIS, and you may or may not have heard this before. It's the Alberta Tourism Information Services, and it's really a database of all the tourism-based businesses within Alberta. It's helpful for us because as our team, if we're looking for a particular business, if they're not in ATIS, it's almost like we don't know they exist. And it's a connection. So tourism businesses will sign up and have a full-on listing on travelalberta.com. So on our consumer website, which gets, of course, millions of hits. And they have the ability to have a description. They have ability to share have photos there. They can link it with all their social media channels. They can put offers on there. So there's tons of flexibility. And right now what we're doing is, aside from, I'm always encouraging tourism businesses to make sure they have a listing on travelalberta.com. There's no cost for this. But I'm always encouraging them also to update that. And especially now with COVID, we want to make sure that the businesses, if they're not open at this time, that they can update their listing very quickly, or if they've got specific safety measures, health and safety measures, they may want to include that as well. And I always like, the more businesses that are on the ATIS platform on travelalberta.com, the more things it looks like there is to do. So the more that are in there from Rocky Mountain House, Clearwater County, it populates it. So as a visitor, when you're searching for things, you can see all the great things that are going on within the area. And the other one I just wanted to quickly talk about is our co-op funding platform. And it's changed a bit. We just launched it about a week ago. And there's funding available for product experience development. And there's also funding available for marketing, and this is partnership marketing. These dollars in the past were cooperative in the sense that a community or business would put in X amount of dollars, and then if it qualified, Travel Alberta would match 1-to-1. So if you put in 1,000, Travel Alberta would match it with 1,000 if it met all the criteria. Right now, it's a grant program. We've never done this before, but we know that businesses and communities more than ever are looking for dollar support, and a lot of them really just don't have any dollars to even match with. So I would encourage, there's an application deadline between June 1st and June 30th, where we're going to look at those applications. And then, of course, I'll be working closely with Jeff to see what sorts of things could Rocky Mountain House take advantage within the marketing stem to really have some dollars to put towards your marketing. We have a ton of resources on our industry hub. It's industry.travelalberta.com. And there's the toolkit with all of the information for the Worth the Wait campaign that we've talked about. There's information on the Ultimate Travelers. We have now weekly webinars that we are offering. There's a ton of updates on the resources surrounding COVID-19, as well as ATIS, all of that information and much more. We've tried to make it as a one-stop shop for our partners so that they can get all the information they need in one area. So I didn't want to take up too much of your time today, but I'd welcome any questions. I know I've kind of gone through a lot, and hopefully it's helpful to you, but I would, as I said, welcome any questions you might have.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Lisa. Council, do you have any questions? So it sounds like you're working directly with Mr. Hartling, and yeah, we're definitely, this is a big conversation for us, marketing our area. It's of great importance to us, and we want to get the best bang for our buck, I guess. We want to be able to promote without it costing a terrible amount of money, but we also do know that we do have to put some dollars toward it, and we also know that it's very important for this area to market.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's great because you've got the alignment also, you know, Jeff's been great with chatting with me and participating in a lot of our webinars, workshops and so forth. So Jeff and I have a great relationship, which is key, as well as Jerry Pratt with Clearwater County. And of course, they're both on the Central Alberta Tourism Alliance, CATA, which is also a great alignment. So there's all these kind of different layers, and it's terrific to have a community that's reaching out to us, sharing what's going on in their community and aligning again with us. So absolutely, we want to give you the best bang for your buck. So as mentioned, that co-op funding, I'm very excited with that program. We'll see what we can do for some dollars from some marketing for the area. And if ever, what we can do, Jeff, is if you have some, I don't know, minutes from today's meeting, if you want, I can share some of the links with our industry hub. And if anyone wanted the link for the, for example, with the Worth the Wait campaign, happy to share that. So I'm not sure whether any other questions at all, or.
Any other questions, Council? No, I think you've answered. You know, we've had a good conversation around this, and we know it's something that we have to really act on quickly to market this area.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you very much for inviting me to speak. Thank you, Mayor Burke. Sorry we haven't had the pleasure of meeting, but hopefully the next time we can meet in person. Thanks again, Jeff, and thanks everyone on council, and have a great evening.
Thanks very much. We look forward to meeting you as well.
All right, take care.
Bye. Okay, so we have a recommended alternative in front of us, or are you gonna? Okay, I'll turn it back over to you.
All good?
Yeah.
Yeah, Your Worship, I think we're looking for some type of resolution.
Resolution, yeah.
That's probably working with Travel Alberta on that drafting program.
Yeah.
Back to council, some matching dollar, sounds like.
There
there's no matching dollars.
So we do have an alternative in front of us, and that does include to explore possible marketing options as presented by Travel Alberta.
That satisfied council.
Yeah, and I don't know, from a previous meeting, there's some ideas that maybe direct, somebody can get directed that way. I don't know. But yeah, I think we got to do something.
Yeah.
That's without a doubt.
And, you know, I think we have to explore more than just Travel Alberta. You know, look at the magazines that we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
promoting our area as a different area, like what type of area do we want to promote our area as?
Niches, like what are,
Yes.
it's not just trees.
Yeah. You know,
Why would somebody come?
Mr. Phillips?
Working with Travel Alberta, building this ideas on, is TV the best bang for your buck in this aspect, is social media the best bang for your buck, is print, you might hope to get some more definitive answers as far as that.
Do you have the direction, Jeff,
For,
for us that we want you to go in?
well, my recommendations would be take advantage of this grant application. Have been corresponding with Lisa of how we can get around that. That is a challenge in itself because they are looking for, when we were partnering up with other tourism related businesses, and it means retail sector downtown as well, what they classified as a tourism sector, that they want to see financials. So we're going to find a innovative way to get financial from some of these business operators, which is not so easy, is it? Anyone that's been in business, they're not so likely to share financial statements with me. But as part of the catch to get this funding. Now, I learned from Lisa that they don't necessarily want to see the financials that it'll kind of be filtered through me. So it's a matter of drawing up some kind of confidentiality agreement, picking some unique operations in our community and around to bring them into the marketing side of things of who we are, what we have to offer, and along with the National Historic Park as well. So we're working on that as we speak, and how to get the most out of that $5 million that they have set through Travel Alberta. And then we can use our funding through some other marketing initiatives, through magazine, WestJet, maybe our we're not into magazine inserts or travel inserts with other communities like Jasper, Banff, Canmore, in that respect.
Yeah, showing financials of the businesses, I can't see why that would, I wouldn't want to.
No, I mean, if you can show, if they can understand, I mean, it's a way to bring in money to help them. I mean, I'm not, I mean, businesses are there to make money as well as other, maybe other reasons as well, but to show your financials, that's gonna be held within confidentiality so that more money can be brought in the area, more business would benefit. I'm not seeing the issue, so, not to say it's not gonna be, I mean, clearly there's gonna be people that, but I think that shouldn't be a major stumbling block.
I think Jeff kind of was referring to results. I guess we need to see results from our ads in regards to a percentage wise.
Okay, that makes
Like
sense.
in regards to like say Cherubs, you know, they had from April till September, they had, you know, such sales last year. It went up 10%.
Okay.
You know, like I think as long as there's results like that,
Okay.
you know, like ideally to tie in with say the ads that we do and we partnership with Travel Alberta, they got to see whether it's good, bad, or ugly results. They just need to see results from their partnership dollars
That
going
makes
into
sense.
the ads.
That makes sense. So not the actual.
I don't, like, I haven't been in the conversations with them, with Jeff, but at the same time, I know in the past, I've always worked on percentage.
Okay.
You know, as
That's
far
even better.
as,
I mean, To give an update on a percentage increase or decrease based on that, it's like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty so, but also if we do partner with hotels, the hotels could get in the habit of saying, where'd you hear from us?
Sure.
And, it could be as simple as that.
Yep.
So,
Perfect.
I think there's, opportunity there with travel over.
Oh, definitely. And that's, Lisa and I had spoken about that as well, and find it's innovative ways to get around without, seeing the financials. Where all it is.
Okay, Councilor Phillips?
And that's good information for us to even know as well. Does this make a difference from a sales increase point of view? Does, when the hotels are asking how these people are coming, where they hear about us from, that gives us a better idea of where we should be targeting next year's advertising dollars.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and by using percentages, we could do that. We're not gonna offer the financials that they made this much more, but percentages make sense. Councilor Fraser and then Councilor Lorraine?
I was wondering if, because it's a municipality, if they'd accept our data from the visitor information center when that gets up and running, and that would they accept those changes, or do they need to be business specific?
Business specific, and that helps as well, for sure, but more business specific.
Councilor Lorraine? Or Dean, do you want to respond?
I'm just gonna comment regarding the VIC. It comes back to them asking the right questions as well when they come in. That's, I hate to say that's what it all comes down to is either the retailer or whoever's the ambassador for the community asking those right questions as far as, how did you hear about Rocky? That's all, and I know we used to have a questionnaire at the VIC. Granted, it was a lengthy one. There's a lot of information there that was very useful for us. And I know they kind of reacted a bit because a lot of people didn't want to take that survey a little bit longer, but at the end of the day, it really benefited the community as far as narrowing down what work and what didn't work. So I think that's something that we can work with VIC, with their visitors that come there to gather more information for us.
Councilor Lorraine?
This is gonna just take us back. I think I'm confused about the grant. So was she talking about, maybe I've just misunderstood it, that businesses and operators could apply for the grant and there's matching dollars there?
No, there's no need for any matching dollars.
No, but they would match, isn't that what she was saying, like if you had $1,000 as a business day and you were successful, they would match?
Yeah, not on this new program that we just put out there. It's all, it's pretty comprehensive.
So there's two different grants that we're talking about?
Yes.
I was very confused. I thought she was talking about matching dollars for businesses and that's why I wanted Amy.
Well, it is and isn't. With the ATIS that she had talked about, the Alberta Tourism Information System. That's something that Jerry works more diligently on, getting more of the operators to update their information on that site. That's a very go-to site with Travel Alberta's input and development with it over the last few years, and that's been quite a challenge to get even the mom and pop or businesses around the region to update their information on that site.
Just in regards to that ATIS, I know when we developed the David Thompson Tourist website, David Thompson Tourism, regional tourism website, we actually were the first website in Alberta to, when people linked onto, not link, when they put their information on, it directly goes to, like say if Tamarack Motor Inn puts their information on our website, it automatically goes to ATIS. There's not that double where you have to, we worked with ATIS, so our website would directly link to.
Okay.
Back and forth.
Interesting.
So it's just the fact of twisting the arm of the operators to, I just quickly looked at the ATIS site in regards to, there are some major hotels in town that are not on it. So whether they missed that email, whether they missed that opportunity, not saying the opportunity is still not there, but it's just, we have to do our homework in regards to educating the operators that there's an opportunity for you, and it's free.
So do we just make an appointment and make sure we talk to the hotel manager?
Yeah, more or less, that's what it comes down. I know Jerry was the lead on it when the David Thompson website was created, but it's a joint effort between us and the county in regards to getting those operators on that site. So.
Okay, any other questions? So is this recommended alternative good enough then? Like, do we need to add something to this or?
Well, I guess, like, we have money in the budget, I guess, whether, I don't want to say trust, or whether you, I guess, want us just to go forward with marketing opportunities for the region, and, you know, the sooner we get them out, the better it is, of course, before July, but there are some opportunities that we have on the books from last year that we can run with. So I think as long as you have confidence in
Well, is that something you could bring to us? Maybe the opportunities that are still on the books with dollars? Because I mean, for this summer, we're kind of, but we really want to get on right now, jump on next summer as well. And winter, fall, winter.
Right now, just another comment. Speaking with Johan over at Riverview Campground a few days ago, this phone is ringing off the hook because we all know people are doing more. They stay within the borders of Alberta. And he's a very happy man. He's so initially he was quite concerned with, but just using that one for example, like it's got them coming from parts of Alberta that never would venture into this area before.
So then I guess it's key to find out where people are finding out about him, his business, his campground. Are they?
There's a lot of Facebook postings, and he has his own initiatives to share there, but he has somebody who is managing his Facebook account. That's his primary advertising.
Facebook is his primary? Councillor Alderson?
And that's why it's important to know where we want to gear. Like, if camping's doing well without us even putting money towards it, it's already doing well for itself. So maybe we want to bring in additional people and not necessarily just the campers. That's already doing well, potentially. So that's why, like, what is the niche we're bring towards? Is it the weddings? Is it whatever? Like, what? We already know we camp in this area. It seems like other people do as well. So maybe there's other things we can show besides camping when we're doing our advertising.
You know, I agree. We've already identified that we need to look at other areas, and so we want to explore print material, other niches. Like what do we?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
I mean, we already have money set aside for sure already. We just want to make sure we're spending out the best bang for our buck we can get. You know, that was throwing it all in the newspaper, all into Facebook, and all into TV. We want to make sure that we're spending it the best way.
Mr. Schrader?
I was gonna talk about that social media. I think that's ideally, like Lisa says, it's easy to twist and turn to what direction you want to go. Ideally, like Councilor Alderson talks about camping, well, we know we've got that market, but ideally, you know, you can target the hikers, the bikers, the canoeists, and those types of markets just through social media. So I think that's something we need to investigate. Like I said, it's a cheap and easy way to do it compared to, not saying print, but you know, print. I mean, the next print for an edition may not come out till the beginning of July. Like we can get on this a little bit sooner than the next print issue.
You know, I just had a thought. I also think we're putting a lot of focus on tourism, which is important, but also Rocky Mountain House is a great place. We've heard people are looking at retiring here. And so I think we need to look at that as well. Promoting our area. Why would you want to retire at Rocky Mountain House? Why would you want to come to Rocky Mountain House and raise your family? Open a business. There are all kinds of things, areas that we do need to promote. So I guess it's a Why Rocky Mountain House campaign.
Why wait?
Yeah, it's just something. Why Rocky Mountain House? Because we have this, and this. If people don't know about us, then they will look at it and say, hey, you know, it looks like a place we should look at.
I love the retirement thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't not just where venture begins, but how venture ends. But yeah, I think we have lots of things about, not just tourism, I think it's great, and like, yeah, why not gear some of that money towards living here, not just for tourists to come and pass through.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I think tourism is only one category that we want to capture. There are many others, and you know, we promote our schools, we promote our healthcare, we promote, you know, our water, you know, buildings, anything, our Main Street. Councilor Fraser?
I know that we were on the adventure, and we talked about the what's your adventure. I'm wondering if would be a good fit for this campaign, because it kind of fits with the worth the height, worth the track, worth all of that. I think the what's your adventure kind of ties into that, but it could also be, you know, the next great adventure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, are you looking for specifics then, or is
that one okay?
Or is it just exploring possible marketing options? You can run with that, or do you want something more specific now?
Well, I don't think we're going to get our money's worth out of TV as much as we went through social media. We can put some TV ads out there for sure, but focusing on who's are going to be a target market and who's spending variables.
Okay, so I think I'm hearing that we want to explore all avenues of why come to Rocky Mountain House. You want to come here to recreate, you want to come here to do business, you want to come here to retire, raise a family. So we're marketing many different scopes.
So for timelines, let us concentrate just on the tourism side right at the moment. For the next 3 or 4 weeks is to hammer that out.
Okay.
And then we'll address the other ones moving forward.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Fraser?
Do you need more added to that motion, or is that motion okay? Because I'll make that motion if that's what you.
Your worship, I think I would like it defined for administration. So, you know, to focus on tourism and be in social media.
Social media and print options.
Right, because, you know, I think one thing Lisa was trying to say in her presentation, or did say, is get to your target audience and focus on that. You know, I think just in our conversation, we've gone from tourism to a whole spectrum. So I think we just got to break that spectrum down into segments that we can focus on.
You can tell we want to run, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I know we're just approaching summer, like I should have asked more questions to Lisa, but is their entire campaign towards summer right now? Because summer's running out, but if we're already putting money towards something like fall, winter, is that where the campaign was type of thing? In those seasons? To get ahead of the game? Just curious.
Like I said, let us look after this first. Well, I'm not saying we have more on our plate, we have more on our plate, but let's look after the tourism side of it first, and then we'll look at
Like in
the
the
fall,
retail
winter.
industry, if I go into retail right now, there's something special, it's gonna be winter soon, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
Christmas will be showing up shortly, yeah.
Councilor Fraser, how were you wording your motion?
All right. I will move that council will accept the report and presentation for information, and council will direct the Economic Development Department to explore possible marketing options, and we're going to say focusing on social media and print, and work with Travel Alberta on the tourism file first. Is that correct?
Sounds good to me.
Great.
I like it.
And did you want to throw in, and we want to run?
And we want to run. And run.
Is everybody clear on that motion? Renee, did you get that motion?
Well, I'll tell you what I have.
Okay.
Incorrect.
Okay, you go ahead.
Be it resolved that council instruct administration to initially explore tourism, social media, and print and work with Travel Alberta on grant opportunities and later explore the various marketing opportunities that support the promotion of the town of Rocky Mountain.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, well said, Mary.
Yeah, okay.
I think you wanted us to specify social media and print, right?
Yeah, I've got that.
Oh, I got
Yeah.
that, okay, I missed it, sorry.
Would you like me to read it?
No. I'll watch some live feed later.
We're all clear on that motion? Okay. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you. Well, we're now gonna flip to the second page of the agenda. Oh, no, we're not actually. We're still on the first page, 6.2. RFD for FCSS post house request. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm before you today to seek council's support for moving the FCSS offices to the post house building and providing a proportionate share of the renovation costs. There will be increased operational costs to the FCSS budget. So a few quick points to note is the FCSS offices will be easier for the general public to find being on street level, plus being located next to the town office, next to the vulnerable populations we serve, such as food bank, clients, library, friendship center, next to you, etc. The FCSS team will be better able to utilize our time in the new location by being more accessible to the public and centrally located, creating a one-stop shop out of the FCSS program. We also hope to create a hub out of the site where we could have other agencies use the offices as they need, because we often have outreach programs to the area from Red Deer, etc. The only unfortunate thing is there's no budget for this expense, and the community grants budget line would be impacted. So there would be less money available for community groups, which, as we know, are definitely in demand. We're anticipating the extra operational costs being approximately $13,000 per year. We also just most recently moved our offices within the Christensen Sports and Wellness Center. You might recall the back used to be located downstairs behind guest services in a tiny, tiny office. So then she moved up with me. And I used to be across from Wes's office. And then we moved together down the hall that used to be the Great Canadian Dollar Store room. We also expect the recovery phase to be very busy with FCSS, so this move comes a little bit untimely for us. If town council does not support this, then we would see no impact to the FCSS budget or renovation costs. And folks do know that where we're located right now, it is hard for people to find, even though we have the elevator, we have to walk all the way around the building through the gym and down the hall. It's a little bit offset, right? Being centrally located would be ideal. And it's just within the rec team, right? Being close to our colleagues is nice. There's a benefit to that. So no funds allocated, limited mobility, and the general public has expressed difficulty in finding us at the back of the building. So I'm recommending option 1, that FCSS, Clearwater Regional FCSS will have increased community exposure and accessibility, with enhanced opportunities for collaboration with other social service groups located in a hub, while also being near other agencies providing services to vulnerable people.
I think this is an ideal move for FCSS. I think to get you more visible out there to the public, to the population that uses your services, I think it's an excellent location. I really do. Anybody else? Councilor Phillips?
I agree. I think this is a tremendous opportunity, not just for FCSS to gain more exposure, but to have all the satellite peripheral, what I call it, groups that can somehow get in there as well and get the exposure of FCSS and also expose themselves at the same time. Not so very well. But I think it's a great opportunity.
Councilor Alderson?
I love the location. So maybe I'm the one who might have a slight issue with it. The reality is that it does cost more, and the money's in such high demand. It's already hard to devote the much needed dollars to user groups that are constantly requesting it. You know, even if it's 13,000 less, that could be potentially one user, it could have been 10 more users that got more dollars. You know, I'm just curious, like, if it's just an issue of finding the back of the building, maybe better signage to FCSS upstairs might be a lot cheaper than potentially moving a whole organization to another building. Just a thought.
Is this something that we could consider using some of our COVID recovery funds for? Because really, this is kind of really why we're looking at this, is a lot more people are looking at using or needing these services. And I see the benefit for our community. I really do see the benefit. Councillor Narang and then Councillor Fraser.
Yeah, I agree, and I think this speaks to what we brought up earlier about planning for the future, and if there were to be another pandemic, people panic and need to know exactly where to go to find service. And if you're right there and they know you're there, I think if you were to do an analysis cost or risk reward analysis, I think that we would be looking at the move being a good positive thing.
Okay. Councillor Fraser.
I think that building as a whole is just going to feel more welcoming for the people who need to come in and find services. People sometimes feel displaced anyways when they're going to ask for help and having to go all the way up. I know I've been to a few FCSS meetings as an alternate, finding it, I know where I'm going to a meeting and I always feel like I'm in the wrong place or that I've gone down the wrong hallway. This will make it really clear and it's easier for it to be welcoming and welcome for the community, especially in such close proximity to those vulnerable populations.
Yes, being visible to the public is crucial, I believe. So my question about the COVID recovery.
Your worship, so that's the 13,000 operating costs, that's
The moving.
the moving cost?
Yes.
Which is $7,000.
Right.
I mean, that could come, I mean, the recommendation is to the general operating contingency reserve, but the council also established a reserve for COVID, so either one. But I think Councilor Alder's concern is the ongoing operating costs.
It's not the end of the world. It's just, you know, it's one of those things that I felt should definitely be addressed. It's one of the cons, but there's certainly pros without a doubt. I'm just curious too, like, is it, and you know, we're likely based on the sound of it, council's gonna be okay with it. Is that, then is it a definite move, like, or is the board have to be okay with it? Like, because they weren't completely convinced, but what happens if we're on board with it, but SCSS board is not? It's gonna move anyhow, what happens? So I was just curious.
Your worship, I think Andrea could probably answer this directly, but I think there's also a presentation that needs to go to Clearwater County. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So,
and the village.
and the village, so the three councils agree to it.
Wes?
I can maybe just speak a little bit more as we try to put together what the operating budget would look like. Looking at the square footage and figuring out what utilities would be and you know, the IT costs and those types of things. At this point, you know, it's an estimate. But I think once you're in there and until you get in there and have a full year under your belt to see where efficiencies could be found, that there is the potential to have less of an impact on the operating budget than perhaps what we see on paper.
With other groups that could come into that building, could that not offset it? Is like, or is that already included when we were talking about the last every year? I was just curious, like, that's just, you can see the offset, correct?
Yeah, I don't know that we factored in the opportunity to rent out an office space.
Yeah.
One of the things we considered is that if she's there and you've got a boardroom and programming space, now you have to rent a room here or other place. So there's give and take within the operational budget with regard to, okay, well, we can rent out space or rent out a meeting room or potentially not have to rent another space for a program or an activity.
Well, and we'd also be able to rent the room that you occupy here as well, right? That room now becomes rentable again.
Yeah, I mean, for us, that makes sense. That's not maybe a selling feature for MCSS to move, like, we can rent it out.
No, but I'm saying you were looking at the operating costs and then
Yeah,
perhaps we
sure.
look at other ways of funding this. I don't know. I just, for me, it feels like it's the best thing for the public. And how do we make it work? That would be my question. If it's the best thing for the public, we have to figure out how we can make it happen. Councilor Fraser?
I just had a question about the map and the red area, or it looks like there's a section of the building with the suites that's kind of cordoned off. Are you planning, or were those lines there before? Yes? Okay.
I think that is the back hallway, which will allow for wheelchair access, because there are steps in the front. So you would access the offices through the back to give you the wheelchair access. And there is some storage in that back area as well. So I think that's where we look at the potential.
Any more comments?
Overall, there's more pros than cons.
Yeah.
User groups need to find it. It doesn't matter if it's invited, they can find it to begin with.
Okay, so how would council like to proceed then? Councilor Phillips?
We've done our discussion, but I'd like to make a motion that the town supports the FCSS offices to post house building and providing the proportionate share of the renovation cost in the amount of $7,076 from general operating agency.
Actually, yours, but I think that COVID money is sitting in that reserve.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay, so it's all there.
So from general operating agency service.
Okay, thank you. Pretty clear on that motion? All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Andrea. Thank you. Okay, 6.3. Pardon me? Almost, not yet. Welcome.
Good evening, your worship and council. This is a correction to the audited financial statements. So I would apologize on behalf of everybody that worked on it. This isn't something we usually like to have to do, but, and it, of course, whatever it could be, it had to be this note. The good news is it went down, but what it was is we need to amend the note for salary and benefit disclosure. What happened was the spreadsheet that was prepared, there was double counting, it was just in an addition error on the spreadsheet. So what happened was the benefits were doubled. I came to like when we had that meeting that day, and I was looking at the benefits and I thought they looked really high. I did question some of the staff and said, well, what benefits do we pay? And because I thought it's only CPP and the communication allowance that you receive. So we have amended it. The benefits, if you look at the original ones, they were basically doubled because they were adding them up and then adding the total as well. So they have been reduced, and we have a new page to insert into the audited financial statements.
Good.
So again, my apologies for not catching it before. It was a bit of a mad rush. We got them like the Monday and presented them Wednesday or Thursday, so it was tight, but it's still so.
That's fine, and I like the way that you've also itemized in there that council does not get
And we changed the wording in that
Yeah.
note so that it's very clear that you do not receive benefits and that it's very limited. So try to cover that as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? My computer's struggling again, so. Make sure we have it right there. There we go. Okay, we have Councilor Drain.
Council accept the changes to approve salaries and benefits disclosure and updated 2019 audit financial statements.
Great. Thank you. All in favor of that motion?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, page 2. Number 7.1, notice of motion. Councillor.
Yeah, Your Worship, this is Councilor Durang's notice of motion. This meeting,
Which one? Oh, from last week.
yeah, the policy on gifts and fines and staff volunteers.
So this is only the second time I've done it, so you just want me to talk about why, like what my thoughts are on this?
Yeah, so Your Worship, so there was a motion, so the motion is actually on the table
Right.
for council to consider, so now Councilor Durang can provide a framework around the suggestion.
Sorry, yeah, I just think that based on the conversations that we've had over the past few weeks, that it might be something worth looking at. As far as allowing staff to volunteer and as far as it looks at the PR for the town, I think it's a good thing to consider. And then also to avoid long drawn out conversations about gifts in kind. Just to have sort of a set parameter that week.
So what kind of financial impact would that have to our budget?
Yeah, Your Worship, there's two topics here really,
Yeah.
sort of the gift in kind.
Yeah.
Which we can draft a policy, and I think the council wants to be a policy to be thresholds, below this value that administration is clear to proceed or above this value that we make back in consideration. So I think that's the easy one. The staff volunteerism, I'm trying to grasp for the.
Well, I just know there's like in corporations, they have, it's like a perk for employees where they're able to take a certain amount of their employment time and dedicate it to a volunteer endeavor, whether it be, I don't know, 10 hours a year or something that they do. But you did mention a very good point when we talked about before that it is taxpayers' dollars. So if I don't know if other communities do it, but I know like it would be nice. I mean, if we're as town employees to be able to be seen volunteering in the community on behalf of the town, not a bad thing.
I guess for me, I'd have to see the financial implications.
Of course, yeah, and I think that, that would have been.
Yeah.
Well, Your Worship, I mean, if council passes the resolution, and I think we draft a policy, and I think we said 10 hours per year per employee as the basis of that policy.
Or maybe 5.
And then we can figure out the dollar approximately for every employee.
I
It's
personally
more of a
feel,
loss of work than it is a dollar value.
right. This feels like this just doesn't feel like the right time to do this, but that's my thought on that. What does everybody else feel? Councillor Phillips, Councillor Alderson?
I agree, I'd like to see the financial impact this would have on the organization. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? Is it 10 hours, it's 5 hours, it's 2 hours? That's all to be determined during the discussion of the financial impact.
Councillor Alderson?
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of volunteering anytime. This one is just a little bit different because while somebody would probably look for volunteer over time, it's still paper somewhere, and that is the taxpayer dollars. So that makes it a little bit different than just a corporate volunteering.
Great. Councillor Ald and then Councillor Fraser?
I'm on the same page as Councillor Alderson. I'd have to really see the numbers on it. They're volunteering their time, they're still getting paid for that time. So it could add up if every one of our staff decided to take 10 hours. And
I guess it's why in my mind, I think of it more as a PR for the town rather than, so that's where I'm justifying it.
I was just curious if it would make it easier as a mechanism, if it was listed as an additional personal day specifically for volunteering, and then you have to submit for that day, and then we could keep track of the number of volunteer hours, that the number of volunteer days that our employees donate to the community. Would that make it easier than the 10 hours?
that's still that's a big financial implication. I guess I just don't feel this is the right time. I think it's a great idea. I just feel that this is absolutely the wrong time to be adding to our budget something like this.
But I don't think it adds, and I think Dean sort of stated it doesn't add a cost, but it will be impact of lost of housing. It's not gonna change the bottom line as far as wages go. Salaries are not going to change, it would just be lost hours, not just be lost hours, but that would be the impact.
The impact of the work that we've been.
Yeah. But I'm fine with waiting, it makes no difference.
Yeah. Councillor Alderson?
Yeah, I guess my problem is like, whether they're here or there, it's paid for, volunteering is typically not paid, it's
Yes.
volunteering, which is $0 involved, but there will be dollars involved here, there is financial impact. And again, I like the idea of volunteering, maybe we can encourage people to volunteer in the community, that'd be great, and we can PR things like, you know, town personnel that are volunteering, but my issue is volunteers typically, there's not usually a dollar amount attached to it, here there is.
And just for council's knowledge, I mean, town staff actually do volunteer for different events on their own already. I mean, the National Indigenous Day is the example last year, community showcase.
Yeah, I agree. I believe that as well. And we have tremendous volunteers in our community, and that does include town staff. So, Councillor Fraser?
If it's maybe more bringing to light what's already being done, should we, I guess, track it and have a competition, like, you know, the fire department, the police have a competition of how many dollars they fundraise. I wonder if volunteers, we could challenge other communities.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that a lot of places probably don't do enough of is really to the report, because you don't normally do that. But I think maybe we can do a better job of it to showcase people, because usually the people who volunteer, they don't want that recognition. That's where the problem is often as well. However, doesn't mean that we can't recognize people for getting out to the community, because we want to honor those people doing that.
And I do believe we do showcase our volunteers in the community already, and maybe we just wrap that up. Okay. And about the other, Councillor Narang, the other part
Well,
of
the
that?
other one is just have a threshold set for fixed and fine, so that administration and departments know what they can and can't do when they need to ask.
Okay. Councillor Fraser?
Is it not already in the purchasing
I don't
policy?
think so.
I remember reading different thresholds, and once it was beyond a certain amount, they had to come to.
But I think it's because that stuff's already been purchased, so the gifts in kind talks about how you're giving away. I guess that's the difference, right?
That's correct.
Hey.
Yeah. So I'm fine with taking the volunteer call, but that's completely fine. It sounds like it wouldn't be a useful exercise for administration at this point, but just take that out and leave the gifts in policy.
So.
So I don't know how to do that.
Okay. And
They're
you're
not
gonna bring
taking
that
it
back then?
So your worship, so the motion is there.
Yeah.
Right? Councilor Narang is amending the motion.
Okay, so remove the.
I can't get into my motion in here. Can somebody read the motion?
So be it resolved that council direct administration to draft a policy for guidance on gifting and fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good for you, Councilor Ray?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Okay. Is everybody clear on that motion?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you. Moving on to number 8, no correspondence for action. Just looking for a motion on 9.1 to accept 9.1 to 9.10 as correspondence for information. Councillor Auld, all in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. Number 10, the action list. Does anybody have anything on the action list? Oh, we need to do an update photo. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So, is that on the action list, the strategic plan?
We're supposed to correspondence for information.
Oh, okay. I guess that would be that would be it, but you can hold that to admin inquiries. Okay, thanks. Action list. Does anybody have any questions on the action list?
So did you want to do it?
No, not yet. I just lost.
You just need a motion to accept the action list?
Yeah, if nobody has any other questions? Okay,
Oh my God.
Councilor Lorraine. All in favor of that motion? That's carried, thank you. Now we'll move on to number 11, administrative inquiries. Does anybody have any administrative inquiries? Okay. Councilor Alderson?
I'm just wondering if you could maybe get and do a day where we can get an updated photo. Councilor Alt and myself have new hairdos.
And just to clarify, there's also one extra, it's not just about the
No,
hair.
it's not. Yeah, we're missing somebody in the photo.
We are
There's Councilor Alt, and I think we should, well, I think we need to get that updated actually.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mayor, which photo is it?
Strategic plan.
Yeah.
Because I do want to assure council that the version published online does have your current council photo.
It's a bit of a change for Councilor Fraser as well. Okay, so we'll get that going. And I also have an administrative inquiry. I have been told that recycling plastics destined for recycling have been have ended up in the landfill. And so we also had an inquiry on the internet or by email about that very same question that somebody's inquiring about recyclable plastics ending up in the landfill. So I'm wondering, can we talk with regional waste? And I know it's a funny time because we don't have regional waste, and I don't remember the last meeting that there was a regional waste. So none of us have any idea. Can we just find out if plastics deemed for recycling have ended up in the landfill? And was it due to COVID? And if that was the case, can we please understand how long that has happened? How long, like over what time frame did that happen? So that the public, we can let the public know, give them the information. And was it just recycled plastic, or was it all recyclable materials during that pandemic? But I think we should clarify all of that before we start getting many more inquiries, because they're starting to pop up. Councilor Lorraine?
Just because there isn't necessarily a committee, we're not meeting, can we just reach out to the vendors directly, or is that?
Worship, do you want me to answer your question?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Because the concern has reached me too, and I did reach out to Clearwater County. 14 tons of plastic have gone to the landfill. Reason being, or reason given, was COVID-19. Just unsure market, according to Mr. Williams, and contamination, possible contamination of COVID. So 14 tons did go to the landfill. I did talk to Mr. Williams this afternoon, and he assured me that their practice now is that it's all being recycled as it previously was.
So were the public notified that that was happening, that the plastics were going to the landfill due to COVID?
Not that I'm aware of, course.
Okay, Councilor Alderson?
So just to, so I understand, it is now being recycled, but are the 14 tons that were held there also have been recycled, or they still landfill?
Your worship, my understanding, they were landfill.
And they're still landfill, like they
Still
haven't been recycled. That's
So I was also told that there was a special spot at the landfill that they were holding the plastics. So I guess I'd like to find out if those plastics are still there, can they be recovered and be recycled?
I'd have to ask that question.
Okay.
Yeah, so take back my last question, I guess. But it is frustrating as a member of the public. I would have liked to have known when I was taking my recycling there that it wasn't in fact going to be recycled. Because then I could have chosen to stockpile it myself.
That's right.
Until it was able to be recycled again. So that is really frustrating.
Yeah, I agree. Councilor Phillips?
I also feel as a member of the waste committee board, it would be very nice to know this is happening.
We should have been notified.
We should be notified,
Yeah.
sure.
Through board members and then
Correct.
on top.
So we could have made an educated decision on how we're going to handle that.
That's right. So I guess we would just like to find out, I think a statement could go out to the public, letting them know what has happened, because already it's coming in ripples. There are stories out there, and I would like it to get the factual information out there so that the public knows what indeed happened. Is that clear?
And so, your worship, that's a request to Water County or Rocky Waste to make that statement.
I guess, I don't know, because there's no regional, we're not meeting right now. So I guess it would be just a request to Clearwater County then. Because somebody made the decision to do that, and it wasn't us. So Councillor Fraser and then Councillor Alderson.
And I was curious if we could get the dates. I think that's important, so we know when it started, how long it went for, and when it ended and they started recycling it again.
They should have the dates.
Did you not send that out?
Dates were for the requests.
So, your worship, just to be clear, so the dates that is actually hauled out to the land.
The dates they stopped recycling, so the day they said we're no longer recycling plastic, and the day they said, now we will recycle plastic again, I'd like to know that time period for 14 tons of plastic.
Yeah.
So, what I can answer the council today, so approximately annually, they collect 50 to 60 tons or tons of plastic. And 14 tons was sent to landfill, so that's approximately 3 months. Be my guess of recycling plastics. I did ask them for the tipping sheets that would have full paper for the plastics go. Some did go 4.6 tons in January, 3.4 in February, and 2.7 in March. So some went out in March, but I mean, those volumes of previous years, those volumes are well, half what would have the same time period.
So they were landfilling in January?
No, I'm not saying.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So,
Either way, I think I think it is beneficial and crucial that we get that information and that we put a statement out to the public so that they know exactly what happened.
I don't necessarily think there would have needed to be a statement and people wouldn't be upset if it was just during COVID, they're holding it until these 14 tons can be shipped later. The fact that they were landfilled, like why weren't they set aside for a later date to be shipped away while they couldn't have been sent during this time? Because COVID, I mean, hopefully they weren't assuming it was going to last forever, so it was temporary. You stockpile in a different area. Yes, maybe they're contaminated, but like anything, there's like, there's a contamination period. So I think if these can be recycled now, no big deal still. You know, are they somewhere that can be recovered or mixed in with everything else? Then it'll be a bigger problem.
Councilor Fraser?
I just think if we're going to ask the public to do extra work and save their plastic and recycle and go do it, take it out of their day that is very, very busy, that they need to be able to trust that all of that extra work is of benefit and it's not recycling.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a public trust issue.
So is that enough direction?
I guess, I don't know if I asked it clearly, I didn't, I was more of a statement, like, I'm wondering if we can ask them, can it be shipped now? Or is it stuck in the bloody landfill for good?
Yeah, Your Worship, so that's one of the action items I got from council would to ask if the recycled plastic in the landfill that are shipped landfill can be recovered. So, the second request is to ask the Ottawa County to make the public aware of what happened to plastics.
Councilor Ald?
There was an email that you forwarded, Dean, that said, again, due to COVID and the unknowns at the time, being handled later with a safety concern, and there was no other way to store it, there was no else that could be done. So that to me says it was just landfill.
But then I was also told there was a special spot at the landfill. So where's the special spot? And is that in addition to landfilling as well? Or is there still a special spot that has plastics that are just waiting to be recycled?
Yeah, I'm surprised that there wasn't greater media coverage about the inability to recycle plastics as a result of this. Because if we just generated 14 tons homes in our area and across Canada, we weren't recycling plastics anymore, that seems to me like there should have been a bigger public education and an outcry about if that's actually what was going on across Canada. It's like, we're just a small little town area that did 14 tons. That's crazy to me.
Or was it just an issue around here?
Yeah, like, why is this?
Sorry, Your Worship, but I think there was third requests that were there any other recyclables?
Right.
Yes. Can we make sure that no other materials were also landfilled, such as mixed paper, tin, and they are still accepting glass. And so what's happening with the glass?
Yeah, because glass wouldn't be any.
Yeah, what else? We were focusing on plastics. What else has been recycled during this time?
Claire?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Phillips? Pardon me?
I have another notice motion.
Okay, just a sec, so I'm just gonna finish administrative inquiries, somebody else? Is it, okay, go ahead, yeah.
Well, we're on the topic of waste. Back in January, we had passed an interim budget that was supposed to be only interim based on 2019's numbers. And I just want to make sure that we're still using that interim budget and that it hasn't been changed as we're not having meetings anymore. We were supposed to have a different budget come back, and because we've never had meetings, how was that addressed?
Your Worship, I'll actually have to research that to see what that council's motion and what the budget is.
If we're still operating on an interim budget, then I don't know from the waste point of view, because we haven't had meetings.
Did we approve it for a period of time?
We just approved an interim budget based on 2019 numbers because we couldn't agree on the budget, and that's where
There
it
was no
stopped.
capital, it was just operating.
Yeah, it was just operating, and that's where it stopped, so maybe clarification of perhaps she's still using that 2019 interim budget, and that something else hasn't come in late.
Yeah, because we haven't got, there's no reporting, there's no nothing.
No information.
Okay. Good. Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any other administrative inquiries? Okay, notices of motion.
I have one, even though it's very stressful for me, because But I do have a notice of motion that I'd like to direct the administration to draft a policy with a term of reference to create a youth advisory council. Because we talk a lot about the disinformation in the community, especially voice your opinion and whatnot. I think if we were to actually implement a youth advisory council that we engage with, that it might actually help educate future voters. So yeah, that would be my notice.
Okay, that's a great idea. Absolutely great idea. And I've actually thought about also including that, but maybe that would be a good way, having a youth on our environmental task force.
A lot of committees would have.
Absolutely.
FCSS actually did last couple of years.
Okay.
And if we had a youth advisory council, I wonder if they would be represented in all, like they would be, have committees the same way that we do.
Sure.
And they would sit on those committees.
Sure. It's great to look into. Okay.
The difference is like, I don't remember if they actually had voting rights, but it was certainly their opinions, like they're on the table, just like anybody else.
I know West Country stakeholders had a youth.
They do, yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. But I don't know, do they vote?
Do they vote?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Your issue is,
Okay, thanks.
West
Central,
Yeah.
West Central, did I say West Country?
Yeah.
West Central stakeholders. Yeah,
There might
sorry.
be the difference between committee and the board, because they,
Yeah.
once or twice it was, like whatever, like, so.
Well, it's so hard to find board members these days too, and you know, bringing youth up through the system, they're learning about board activity and committee activity. You might have.
Yeah.
Growing up to want to sit on boards.
I think it's so important to involve our youth, and the more that we can do it, the better, and this is, I think, ideal.
Well, I know West Central has had a really active youth council. I know they went to Ottawa to do youth councils of Canada, so there are civic-minded students at the school, and they're supported by staff, so I think that would be
great. Any other notices of motion? Okay. It is 9:25, and I'm gonna call a 5-minute break, please. Oh man, I struggle with the nighttime. Chilly in here.